Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajachanarandhana Jasodanandana Brajachanarandhana Danda Brajachanarandhana Jamanatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajachanarandhana Jasodanandana Brajachanarandhana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariviragacharya Astatarasthi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Or Premanandi. Some of you just reached Gita Nagari, or like this morning or something, so welcome. And the class this morning, I'm going to need a Bhagavad Gita as it is, that nice book copy. This class is intended to do two things. Connect the morning topic with yesterday evening, and the second is to lead or serve as an introduction to the main menu, the Bir Krishna Maharaj's presentation on realizing our empathic nature in service to Krishna. Yesterday evening we discussed the topic of Vaishnava compassion, and one of the aspects of Vaishnava compassion, it's one of the qualities of a Vaishnava, specifically compassion in relation to speech. And I'll start with making reference to Rupa Goswami, who gave some very important teachings about Vaishnava conduct and devotional service. Two specific references, those of you that are familiar with Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Amrita. Very first verse, he speaks of 6 Vegams. You're going to see that word again in just a moment. Vega. Vegam means pushing or strong urge. So there's a strong urge for speech. And according to Rupa Goswami, that's one of the 6 strong urges, and those who can control those 6 strong urges are fit to become spiritual masters for the whole world. Now, a spiritual master for the whole world, that's a big picture. But controlling the urge of speech, because Prabhupada often said that the tongue has these 2 functions, tasting and vibrating. So this is just dealing with the vibrating part. The tasting part comes right after the class. And that 2 functions is connected, Prabhupada would speak about this in connection with another verse by Rupa Goswami. Those that have been around for a while, you know this verse. Iha yasya harer dasya karmana manasa girat nikilapi apivasta sujivan mukta uchate. Essentially, realization of God consciousness is not easy. But it becomes possible if you can control the senses, starting with the tongue. Starting with the tongue. And the most powerful of all the senses is the mind. Yes? Yes, Maharaj. Anyone that's done a little counseling knows all about the mind. And I explained yesterday evening that how it came about that this is the topic is the counseling seminar given by Ikshvaku Prabhu. Fantastic. I don't know if he's coming again this year, but if he is, sign up and attend. It's fantastic. So the mind rules our life too much. And of course, driven by the modes of nature and all those things. And we lose our self. So if you want to control the mind, a good beginning, according to Rupa Goswami, is control the tongue. And we're just taking the control speech, or in the verse of Bhagavad Gita that we're going to see in just a moment, it's austerity of speech, but it's to help control the mind. And it's part of why control speech and control the mind, to please Krishna. And to be able to access Krishna's mercy. And then we can be instruments or agents, distributors of Krishna's mercy, just as yesterday. Kripa, Vaishnava compassion. So that's the connection between yesterday and this morning. Now here's the verse from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna speaks, chapter 17, about tapa, or austerity of speech. The word speech is in this verse twice. Vakyam, vak means speech, and here it's van, but in the word for word it's vak. It's speech, or in relation to our speaking, in relation to making sounds with the tongue. And there's a way to perform tapa, or austerity. And please consider, again, the topic yesterday evening, compassion. Those that weren't with us, and even those that were with us, there's three elements of compassion. There's cognition, there's feeling, and there's action. Empathic, cognitive, and motivational. Remember that from that yesterday? It's right in the verse. This term, right at the very beginning, anudvega karam. It's not agitating. So who is, when speech is in the mode of goodness, the consideration is not just this part, satyam. Sorry, Prabhu, I just got to say the truth. Rah, 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 rah. There, I spoke the truth, and I put it out on the internet. It's all over the place. So, anudvega karam is with compassion about how it's going to impact the other person, the receiver, even directly or even indirectly, other persons that may secondarily hear that sound vibration. So it's a consideration of compassion. And then priya hitam. Priya hitam means, priya means dear or beloved. And priya hitam is very pleasing. You're considering saying the truth in a manner to the other person that's going to be priya, or pleasing. And hitam, Prabhupada has used in the word for word, beneficial. It's going to lift the situation, not just like, I got to say the truth. Rah. There, I did it. You got to be truthful. But beneficial. So that's compassion. All three of those. Anudvega, karam. Not agitating. I'm considering the other person. And priya, it's dear and pleasing, very sweet. And hitam, beneficial. So, the connection from yesterday evening is the Vaishnava feature of compassion and speech. Speech that's compassionate has these elements. And from our yesterday evening's discussion, empathic. Built into these three, you're thinking about the other person. You want to be honest and truthful, and you want to be considerate of the other person. How is it going to be beneficial? How is it going to get the result of lifting the person? And it's not displeasing. We'll hear in a moment some speech that would be displeasing, and a qualified Vaishnava didn't say it because it could be apriya. We'll hear in a moment. So it promotes the quality of goodness. And why be interested in promoting the quality of goodness? I guess so you could feel good about yourself, and you can look down at other people that aren't in the mode of goodness. That's one motivation. But really the purpose is to get closer to Krishna and to please Krishna. We're going to hear about that tomorrow morning. Pleasing Krishna. How to please Krishna. With the quality of compassion, and specifically even the quality of compassion in speech. This is not self-centered. It's other-centered, and ultimately it's Krishna-centered. That's love, where Krishna is at the center, and the object, the person who you're wishing to be in service to, you're very considerate about that other person. It's beneficial, not displeasing, pleasing, and not agitating. That's Vaishnava compassion. It's transcendental and holistic at the same time. That is to say, you're concerned about the other person's mind. And guess what? That helps you control your mind. And it starts with the tongue, according to Rupa Goswami. And this other word, tapa, is austerity. Now, austerity sometimes is thought of as, it hurts. You know, you do something that's kind of intense, and that's tapa. Sorry, Charlie, it hurts, but you know, you got to do it because it's tapa. But that's not the standard. The standard is, what's the purpose of tapa? Control the mind and senses. And what's the purpose of controlling the mind and senses? Bring one closer to Krishna to become dear to Krishna. Now some people, Hiranyakashipu type people, they do tapa so they can get power, so they can become invincible. And Vaishnavas do tapa because they want to become closer to the quality of goodness and pleasing to Krishna. So for the motivational reason becomes elevated for a Vaishnava. Vaishnava compassion is, as an instrument of Krishna, I wish to become a fit instrument. Okay, so here's the translation. We should chant the verse. Anudvega karam bhakyam satyam priya hitam chayat svadhyaya vyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchake. Find the verse. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Very short purport by Srila Prabhupada. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students, if he will agitate their minds. This is penance. That's just tapa, as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. But he says it again. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit. That's what goes to you. And elevate human society. That's what goes to others. And Krishna is pleased by both. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. Those of you that read what Veer Krishna Maharaj had sent out to all of you who registered, his motivation I think I'm saying it properly, is to provide a medium, training and education and a procedure for the devotees, the Vaishnava community, to have enhanced relationships with one another by addressing what the obstacles are and addressing them properly. You could say removing the obstacles, but positively, knowing what the obstacles are, positively cultivate proper communication and all types of other things, conflict resolution and stuff like that. So it's for strengthening Vaishnava relationships, this communication, nonviolent communication, or realizing our empathic nature for service to Krishna. So this is a little image that is indicating whether people aren't communicating clearly. Some years ago, I saw Nuttama Prabhu reading a secular book. I caught him red-handed. No, I'm sorry. I was curious about the title, and the title was, "That's not what I meant!" exclamation point. How many times? The answer is many. How many times have you attempted to convey something to someone, or even specifically go out of your way to do something that's meant to be pleasing to them and of service to them and an act of kindness to them, and it was understood just the opposite? Many times, right? So the author of this book touches on this image here, where she got divorced because her husband was asking her, "What do you think, honey?" And she say, "Whatever you want." And he said, he get agitated, say, "No, I want to know what you want. What do you think?" "Well, I just want to please you, that's what I think." "No, I want to," and their relationship broke apart because she didn't understand his need. And here Krishna Maharaj is going to touch on, more than touch on, he's going to go deeply into this topic of the other individual's needs. And so, the marriage fell apart, and she went through exploration. How did that happen? And one of the things that really helps when there's a conflict in relationships is ask yourself, how might I be contributing to prompting the other person to feel what they're feeling? It's a conflict resolution recommendation, and commonly people don't want to go there, want to fix the other person. The problem's over there. So in the book, I didn't read the whole thing, I got a copy and started reading. So she was visiting in London, went to a cafe or some kind of place like that, and there were no extra empty seats, and so she sat with this young couple. And she didn't want to be the ugly American that's kind of in their face, and so her intention was to be respectful and give them their space, because she's intruding in their, "May I sit down?" "Yeah, sure." And some time passed, she was behaving nicely, very pleased with herself that I'm not being the ugly American. And then they kind of burst out and said, "What kind of rude person are you? You don't even say hello. You don't speak anything, no kindness. You're the ugly American." When her intention was the opposite. It's not what I meant. So this is if communication to be effective means we have to understand one another, not just we want to be understood. This is one of Brajabihari's favorite topics. Seek first to understand before trying to be understood. You know that one? We read about it, maybe we do it too, but it certainly facilitates communication. Because for many reasons. Then you understand the other person. It's not one of these. And if the other person feels, wow, they really want to understand me. And what happens? The heart opens. And then when the heart opens, it's not like you come in with boots and start stomping around. But the heart is open. I've been understood. Here's a person that cares and has some understanding. And then this austerity of speech really works well. Especially referring back to Srila Prabhupada's purport, in the case of a teacher. Now in the case of a teacher, the teacher may speak directly. And if one is not in that position of the teacher-student, or whatever the proper dynamic is, be very careful, because it can, excuse me, but it's none of your business. Now, we invest in relationships, and it's not like we have to walk on eggshells to invest in relationships. When something is, there's genuine compassion, you just have some understanding of what that looks like. And now, we're not cultured. Have you noticed? But when people are cultured, they understand these things, both by, passing it on from their families and their, mode of goodness, higher consciousness. This is an image of the person who is behind what we're doing this weekend. As I mentioned yesterday evening, this gentleman here, for 30 years or something like that, Marshall Rosenberg, way ahead of his time, before Buddhism became popular. Now it's really popular, and like people really rah-rah nonviolent communication. But before it was even popular, he was expressing nonviolent communication. And the image shown in this picture is, he uses puppets. This is a giraffe, and this is a jackal. And he would use this jackal speak. And, he would give for example, like a role play. Something happened, and jackal speak goes like this, and giraffe speak goes like that. And he explains that the giraffe is, why a giraffe? I don't know. He says because from the biology of a giraffe, it has the largest heart. Even proportionate to its body. A big heart. So it's from the heart. And we use this expression very casually, maybe not so clearly, and different people mean different things when they use it. So he's Marshall Rosenberg is a source that Bir Krishna Maharaj, and this is like, a marketing speech here for Bir Krishna Maharaj's talk. He is the preceptor of this message in detail for audiences all over the world, and breaks it down into little pieces. And then you look at the pieces, and how does this piece fit with that piece? And it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's fun. And it's not easy in part because we're not cultured, and we're selfish and so forth. I had this really nice exchange with a graduate student at Texas A&M after a class, after a presentation at the University Club. I've spoken about this many times, but obviously it made a very significant impact. He's a PhD student, and he wanted to know, how do I get beyond fear and selfishness? And he put it in that sequence. I said, could you explain? And he said, my whole life, looking around the room, some of our adults and Maybe some of the adults are doing some of the same with their children. My whole life I was pushed to excel academically. And I was told, you can do it, go, go, go. And so I really applied myself, go, go, go. And it was all about me. And I did it. And here I am in my PhD program. I'm at the top of the mountain. And I'm realizing I'm realizing, actually, I'm deeply rooted in fear because I don't want to fail. And I know at some point, it's the you can do it model isn't going to work. And I'm afraid. And it's all about me. I bought into the paradigm, and here I am at the top of the mountain. And how do I get on the other side of fear and selfishness? Whew. Cool, huh? You're a candidate for Bhakti Yoga. Because it's not just getting on the other side of material contamination, it's who we really are. Swarupena vyavastati. What's the activity of a living being that's beyond duality, beyond material existence? What's that? And if one becomes inspired like that, then one can go beyond selfishness and fear and the whole picture. Now here's an image of Ramchandra Puri. This is what not to do. Ramchandra Puri, in contrast with Ishwara Puri, who both were disciples of Madhavendra Puri. Ishwara Puri was Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. Ramchandra Puri was his god brother. And he made this big boo-boo, big mistake of criticizing, judging. We're going to hear Krishna Maharaj is going to speak about judgmental considerations of other people and other people's speech. So welcome all of you that just came in. You're from MIT? Yes? Welcome. Glad you made it. Glad you made it. How many in your group, Prakash? 15. Welcome. There's some other people on their way from Atlanta. They didn't make it yet. Maybe the rain got them or something. Okay, so in short, Ramchandra, this is what not to do. Ramchandra Puri took the position of criticizing his spiritual master. Why are you speaking like this? You're saying these words. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's students did the same. So he became mercy, kripa from his spiritual master. Madhavendra Puri was withdrawn. And he became then like an ardent, compulsive fault finder. He went everywhere just speaking harshly, judging people and speaking harshly. So this is an image. He couldn't find anything to criticize in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Finally, at last, he saw some ants on the floor. And ants are all over the floor in different places in India. Those that have been there, you know. There's ants on the floor. You've been eating sweets. Sannyasis are not supposed to indulge in eating too many sweets. Rah, 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 rah. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the image is showing, he didn't, speak back. He used his discretion. We can say so many things, but at least minimally, Ramchandra Puri is his superior. And he just took the chastisement. He didn't say, no, that's not true. No, he could have. He could have done so many things, but that's what he chose. He just remained silent. But Ramchandra Puri was this apriya position. We saw this image yesterday. This is Vidura, specifically in meeting with Maitreya. But you will find in Canto 1, Chapter 13, when Vidura returns from this 34-year pilgrimage, he goes right back to Hastinapur, and he has one mission. The one mission is to deliver his elder brother. Now in Vedic culture, the elder brother is somebody you look up to. No, in Western culture, we don't look up to much of anybody. But in Vedic culture, it's respectful, it's just because he's elder. However, Vidura was very wise. He's Yamaraj, literally, not figuratively. So Yamaraj is one of the 12 Mahajans, a great authority. So he had that power to speak to his elder brother and give counsel. In fact, the whole of the royal family looked up to Vidura in that way. And then after he went on pilgrimage, he became a perfected soul after hearing from Maitreya, etc. So he went back to the capital, Hastinapur, and when he was received, he's been away for 34 years, and Yudhisthira and the brothers were so happy to see him. Happy. And the Bhagavatam says, they asked so many things, how are your travels, how is this and that. He didn't say what he knew because it was apriya. What he knew was the entire Yadu dynasty is gone. And Krishna is gone. And he knew it. And he didn't say it. Because it knew it would be disturbing to the mind of Yudhisthira. Prabhupada makes this comment, according to Niti Shastra, it's not a good idea to become the bearer of bad news. And one of the reasons is the feelings of the bad news get reposed on the person who delivered the bad news. Now, amongst uncultured people, like, Kali Yuga people, as soon as there's bad news, it goes all over the place. But Vidura, after not speaking that which would be displeasing to the Pandavas, after some time, he waited a while to let everybody kind of settle down. And then he, in a private place, he spoke to his elder brother. And he spoke very strongly. Remember what it said in the purport of this chapter 17 verse of Bhagavad Gita. He spoke very strongly. Very strongly. Very strongly. You're living like a dog, living off the scraps of the food of Bhima, etc. So, get out. Because previously, when Vidura was still living in Hastinapur, he tried, and he tried, and he tried. There's one passage in Mahabharata, they spent the whole night, all night long, telling Dhritarashtra, not just, persuading him, telling him, stop this diabolical behavior supporting Duryodhana. I know all the dirt. I know all the corrupted heart of Duryodhana. This and this and this. Stop this. At the end, Duryodhana said, what you're saying is true, but I can't help myself. I'm too attached. I can't do the right thing. So when Vidura returned, he didn't go down that path again. He took off the gloves and let him have it. But he had that relationship where he could, because Dhritarashtra could understand he's his well-wisher. So the end of that is Dhritarashtra accepts, and instead of having to suffer, because the compassionate nature of Vidura was he didn't want him to continue suffering due to his attachment, he became released from those bad activities that he did and achieved a higher destination instead of having to die in a miserable way and in his next life undergo the reactions of all of his bad deeds. We have this nice similar example. Just going to do 2 more examples and finish. I like this one very much from Sita speaks words to Ram that a loving wife can say to her husband, and Ram took it as just coming from a loving place. But she expressed her concern that you've taken this vow before Satikshna that you're going to destroy the Rakshasas in the forest. But they haven't done anything to harm you, and you've taken this vow you're going to destroy them. And you're a man of impeccable character, but even a person of high character can be corrupted by 3 things. So she's referring to scripture, just exactly what Prabhupada said. So if someone deviates from truth, they can be corrupted. If someone covets another man's wife, can become corrupted. He said, but in your case, you abide by truth, and I know you. You're not, this other thing is a non-issue. But another thing that one can become corrupted by is power. And you're in the forest, and you've got bow and arrows and sword and, implements of a Kshatriya. And you have this power, and power can corrupt. And then she tells a story. There was a sage living in the forest. And Indra is starting getting nervous. Maybe the sage wants to take over my kingdom. He's getting very powerful. So he came in disguise as a king who was traveling in the forest. And he met the sage and said, oh, my dear sage, I'm carrying this sword, but it's a burden. Can I leave it with you and deposit and come back and get it later? Sure. Some service to a king. Great. And so Indra left, and here's the sage keeping his word. So when he went to take his bath at the river, he kept the sword, and when he went to gather berries and roots and things, he kept the sword, and he became so accustomed to having the sword in his hand that it started to affect his mind. And then on one occasion, he saw a situation and used the sword and killed. So he lost all of his strength. Indra was very smart. So Sita says, so similarly, this is my concern. You've just taken this terrible vow. Ram is very pleased and says, I'm keeping it simple, there's more detail. He says, my beloved, only someone that has such love for me can speak this way. And in short, I assure you, you say I never deviate from my word, I give you my word. I will not use these weapons in any way that's contrary to Dharma. Although I'm in exile, I'm the son of Dasarath in the line of Ikshvaku, and it's the duty of the royal family to give protection to others, and the sages have approached me. It's my duty. It's a religious duty. I have to. And I've given my word to him, but I give my word to you. I will not deviate from Dharma. So she became pacified. Nice instruction. So when there's closeness in relationship, one may speak things that others may not have the privilege to speak, but it should be done in this compassionate way, empathic way, concern for the other person way, that resulted here, in this case, in Dhritarashtra becoming relieved of his sinful reaction. And last but not least is Srila Prabhupada. Now he chose this image because, you see that Vyasa-san that he's sitting in? See the Vyasa-san over here? It's the same Vyasa-san. Because once upon a time, as I mentioned yesterday evening, before this was called Gita Nagari, it was known as the New York Farm. Because the New York devotees sacrificed this way, that way, and got the funds to buy the farm. It became the New York Farm. And when the temple from Brooklyn was moved to Manhattan, the Vyasa-san went to Gita Nagari, and here it is. So, but I was naturally wanted to say something of Prabhupada's compassionate speech, because that's our topic this morning. And one that came to mind, specifically in relation to Satsrup Maharaj, because I heard Satsrup Maharaj tell this story multiple times. And he certainly had his presence here in Gita Nagari for many years. The circumstance was the very first initiation at 26 Second Avenue. And Prabhupada named 4 names of who he was going to give initiation to. And one of them was not Satsrup Maharaj. And Satsrup Maharaj describes what he felt. But Prabhupada knew. Prabhupada didn't say why you're not number 5, it's just there's 4. But he knew what his feelings were, and he didn't say why he didn't increase, why he wasn't named in that first batch. But Prabhupada had such a loving exchange that, his heart melted. So what happened was, Satsrup Maharaj described, because he had a skill in typing, Prabhupada would regularly give him documents or something, writings or something to type, and then after some time, Satsrup Maharaj would bring back a typewritten version of what Prabhupada gave him. And so, before the initiation, he went to visit Prabhupada to deliver some typing. Prabhupada came down from his room, knowing that Satsrup Maharaj had come. Rather than saying, send him to my room, he came down from his room and into the storefront, and Satsrup Maharaj paid his obeisances. He wasn't a sannyasi at the time. And Prabhupada just looked at him. He didn't say, I know what you're feeling, but the look was, I know what you're feeling. And Prabhupada said something so simple. He said, you love me, I love you. That was, all of the anxiety and stuff was gone. Because that's what we want anyway, is that sense of connection, whether it goes under this name or that name. We want a sense of connection. And a sense of connection with Srila Prabhupada means a connection with Krishna. And all the members of ISKCON, whoever you may be, whatever age and whatever next generations, etc., we want to make this connection with our founder Acharya. And to say that isn't minimizing anyone else's connection with anyone else, whoever that anyone else may be, your Diksha Gurus or Shiksha Gurus or temple presidents or husband and wife and whatever it is. All those relations ideally are connected to Krishna and through the medium of this most merciful, compassionate founder Acharya who's given us everything. And this is the last image. This is, somebody was creating some graphics for our event. They came up with this one, so I just included it. Compassionate speech makes the heart feel whole. So we have a little bit of time. Let's see if there's some discussion. Way in the back. Put your hand up again, please. Whoever the next person is, put your hand up so we can get the microphone to you without further delay. Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, we just heard during the fault finding situation, he remained silent. We also heard there should be an effective communication. So it's a little confusing for me where to remain humble and which situation we should have an effective communication.
Which one are you? Anything or some specific something?
Any situation, where to stay humble and just keep silent.
Humble means before Krishna you're very small. That's what humble means. That's the spiritual conception of humility. Now, in service to Krishna, we discussed this yesterday evening. In service to Krishna, you may just tolerate. In service to Krishna, you may speak something. My dear Prabhu, you've crossed the line. See the line? And this is what I'm feeling. I take responsibility for my feelings, but I want you to know this is what I'm feeling from what. Or someone may be necessary. Whatever you say in the workplace, you speak something strongly. But whether you do this, that, or the other thing, or something else, the humility isn't abandoned, because humility means in relation to Krishna. I'm his eternal servant. And what's the best way for serving Krishna in this circumstance? Remember the discussion yesterday about the cobra and Narada? Don't bite anybody, but you can show your hoods. So now, we have to be careful, not just go around showing our hoods. But what's appropriate for pleasing Krishna without abandoning humility? That is our position. We're meant for service to Krishna, for pleasing Krishna. Krishna's pleasure is everything. Never leave that. And then, what's appropriate? Now, that takes some discrimination. And that's not easy to come by sometimes. Discretion is the better part of valor. You heard that little? So, over here.
Maharaj, you were talking about compassion in speech and trying to understand the other person. So the focus moves from self-centered to other-centered and to Krishna-centered?
Yes.
So what if the similar message of compassionate speech needs to be delivered in a place where we cannot talk about God openly, or directly, in a university, in a college, or any other workplace? So how to provide the essence, or how effective, or how to effectively convey the message without really bringing Krishna specifically, or concept of God in the center.
Well, practice makes perfect. It's not easy. My experience, besides colleges, is China. And you don't, not besides Krishna, you don't use the God word. So you have to find some other words. And those other words mean so many things to other people. And you know it's going to mean other things to other people, but directionally, you're not out of integrity, you're being respectful to the audience. So it's relatable. So it doesn't just bounce and, you get your visa revoked. Or the audience runs away. Or something. We want to have effective communication while remaining truthful, respecting the audience. So it takes, sensitivity and some practice. Lots of prasadam. Good prasadam. Varieties of prasadam. And now that you find out what their favorite one is. And then you do that one. But still, so then the heart opens. Then you can express things that otherwise, if you're not coming as a dogmatist, you're just, one of the things that I've learned in modern culture, particularly in the millennial community, expressing your convictions is politically correct. Just don't impose your convictions on others. That, like judging. If you don't do this, then there's something wrong with you. Or their convictions, you make a judgment about their convictions. It doesn't, meet the mark of what convictions should be. But expressing your own convictions. So, you have to know the audience, and you learn the art. Transcendence, the Supreme. People think the Supreme is whatever they think it is. Conceptions of divinity. And they have so many ideas. So many. Something. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Maharaj, sorry. I want to ask you, what in a situation where the violent communication has occurred in the past,
Violent communication.
Occurred in the past, and going forward, if you want to improve your communication, how should we go about doing that?
Well, is this in the family?
Family, outside.
Okay. And is the violent communication something that came from you or came from others? Or both? Both. So take responsibility for your part. And express. And then best is you don't repeat it. The best apology is change of behavior. But change of behavior requires something inside, not just, so I'm an imperfect being, and as I'm making this apology, I may make the same mistake again, because I'm an imperfect being. I'm acknowledging my mistake, I'm acknowledging my shortcomings as a fine human being, or whatever the language is. But I earnestly and honestly wish to improve. That's this amanina manadena. I'm not expecting from you. If you say, and I'll continue like this, provided there's a business deal, you improve too. Without expectation of appreciation, a pat on the head, an acknowledgement. There's all those. I'm sure he's going to touch on it. Our needs. We need to be acknowledged that there's some persons, largely, I've apologized, and please acknowledge my apology. But, so, mending has to do with the sincerity, so much so it's not contingent upon the other person being different or moving. So if you want the mode of goodness instead of passion and anger, ignorance, be in the mode of goodness. And just be in the mode of goodness without expectation. By that, you become good association, and then it becomes possible, at least, that there can be a mode of goodness response, because you're the mode of goodness, you become a mode of goodness person. Make the change over here. Consistently. Yeah. Easier said than done, but I recommend that. There's many things to say on this topic. Okay. Anything further? Oh.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Regarding compassionate speech and the consciousness or motive, you gave the example of Ramachandra Puri and then the opposite end of the spectrum of Vidura. So when there's a need, or I guess a perceived need to express something, but understanding that my mood is something less than Vidura's compassion, what's the recommended course of action? I mean, obviously there's the standard that is established and we try to move toward that.
Yes.
But before we're at that standard.
Well, then we're going to make some mistakes. Because we're less than perfect. My sense is better to err on the side of caution. And on the other hand, there's this urge to speak. Jiva Vegam. And so Rupa Goswami, and because Scripture instructs and Rupa Goswami is amplifying what Scripture instructs, we should try. And so then one option, rather than say something, say nothing, is pause. And wait till you're not in the need that's kind of like pushed by the modes, at kind of space. You're in this neutral space. And then you can do the communication neutrally. Because the other person may feel something, and then depending upon how they feel and what they say, you may get triggered and say something you don't mean to, you regret later. So that's an option, is pause. And speak when you're in this more balanced position. All of these are, relational, interrelational. Yes, up front here. I think we're going to end after this. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, the Priya Hitam, and you also mentioned about how to speak to elders.
Move the speaker. Just turn it. Go ahead.
So if elders are, especially in the family, like they are acting a little agitated, or if the circumstance is not favorable, so how is it okay, or are we attempt to change the situation or something pleasing, or it is something if elders are in a state of agitation and stuff, or it's better to not talk anything and then come out of it?
Depends on the circumstance, you and the elder, and so many things. It depends. I don't have a cookie cutter answer for this one. Sometimes you just smile. Sometimes you say, I accept. Sometimes you say, I'm an adult. and I respect you as the elder, and I'm an adult. And this is something that's very meaningful to me, and I want to act in this way. Respectfully, I'm not disrespecting you. Kindly offer respect that, I'm speaking this way, not in disrespect, but this is very important to me. So, I'm not asking you to accept my value, I'm asking you to just honor this as something that I value. It's that important that I'm speaking with you about it. And then, who knows what the response is? Maybe that's going to aggravate and agitate, and they get flamed. But there's some points where it's just, there's a line. You need to do that. So it depends. It depends. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, we're done with the questions. There's a Sundari Radha, are you here? Or downstairs or something? Okay, there's a group of devotees that are organizing another event in Chicago called Festival of the Holy Name, and I've been asked to show you a little trailer. It's really short, and it's cool. And the punchline is, come on over and join the party. No, I don't think so. It's not going to let me play it. Oh, what do I do? Oh, there we go. Okay, it just said no, and you can't play me. We'll figure it out and do it later. So there's some devotee or devotees downstairs. It's a nice event that involves public harinam and topics related to chanting the holy name, and a big Nama Yagya and things like that. And a whole weekend of focusing on the holy name. And we'll do it maybe this afternoon. Show this little video, figure out a way to do it. One last thing is, also down there at that reception desk, there's some flash drives of visits to Dwarka and Ayodhya. Making a long story short, for practically as long as I've been coming to Gita Nagari, 30-something years, I've been going. Actually, I've been coming to Gita Nagari longer, but taking groups of devotees to holy places in India, and the last 2 years, Dwarka and Ayodhya, Chitrakoot, also Naimisharanya because it's in the area. So there's flash drives that have that high resolution video of the kirtan, the katha, videos of the places, photographs of the places with little captions. This is the deity, this is the temple, this is the place. So although for me it's a service to take people, and then those that couldn't go, then we can give you in this format. And there's some cost in producing the thing and cost in the flash drive, so there's some donation involved. They'll explain at the desk. And if you don't have, then you can take anyways, I'm fine. But it's, that's the purpose of this little announcement. And Raghuvanandan, before everyone gets up and starts shuffling, you say what you need to say.